And here we are again. Today is October 11th, and it's time for an Oscars update. All right, now, usually about this time of year is when I start on some Golden Globe nomination predictions, too. We're going to get to that. With the Globes, there's so much that's happened here in the last week or two that I just need, to collect my thoughts on that a little more, and I'll do that in a separate video here. So, just for now, this is going to be some Oscar predictions updates. Now that all the big fall film festivals are all done, with the exception of New York Film Festival, but New York this year has no new films out, at least none that are right now big on the Oscar radar, and I don't think there's any. I don't think there's anything there that we haven't already seen that's at another festival at least that is going to make a big dent in the race. So yeah, at this rate, we're still just going to predict the top 8 categories with screenplays, the 4 acting races, director and picture, and I'll address a couple of things as far as where the odds are favoring right now, at least according to like IndieWire, Gold Derby, those kind of things. So, anyways. First of all, we'll just start at the top and work our way down here. So, Best Picture. It wasn't too long after I posted my last video that they had a new trailer come out for If Beale Street Could Talk. It was right after TIFF. And I got to tell you, that trailer was it was the best trailer I've seen in years. I mean, honest to God, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And after seeing, I mean, seriously, as soon as the trailer started, I'm like, okay, I'm in. I almost teared up at a couple parts. It was that good. It was that good. So just based on that, it moved up, and now it's number one in my Best Picture predictions right now. Again, that's just based off of a second trailer. Word of mouth on it is very, very good. I know initially the first couple reviews that I read, like out of the first screening at TIFF, were pretty. A couple of them were kind of. I described it as kind of reluctant to be positive, but after that, everything else really lined up for it, and I think it's screened at New York Film Festival since then too. So the Rotten Tomato score is up 93% right now, according to the Tomato Meter here. So yeah, that's really, as long as you're 85% or higher, that's really the upper echelons of where you want to be if you screened at a big film festival like that. So I have that at number one. My current number two right now is First Man, which is actually just about to open. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go tomorrow night on the 12th, just for that. But yeah, I have that just at number two for now. Black Klansman is my number three. I'm going on this Spike Lee train. We'll get to him in a minute for Best Director. But The Favorite I have at number four. Roma I have at five. Green Book at six. And I'll tell you what, I'm starting to think Green Book. Green Book could very much follow in the footsteps of Three Billboards last year, where it's a film that people know about, and then it hits the festivals. And like Three Billboards, it won the People's Choice Award at TIFF, and it's going to open in November. It looks like it's got a couple of likely bets for some Oscar nominations for at least the acting categories, screenplay, picture. At this rate, we'll see if Peter Farrelly can get in there for director, but yeah, that's a little bit of an obstacle there because it's like, the guy who directed or co-directed, depending on who you ask, Dumb and Dumber, all of a sudden is going to be an Oscar nominee this year. Potentially for that. I think actually, let me just double check. Didn't he have a hand in the screenplay too, or maybe he just? Yeah, he was a co-writer on it. There were two other writers with him there. Yeah, so that's a possibility. Clear down at number 7 is where I have A Star Is Born, which a lot of people are really high on right now after it just opened. And I saw it opening weekend. I'll tell you what, it was good. Good. Not terrific, not awesome, not, inspirational like a lot of other people say. Not to say I was mixed on it, but there were definitely qualities that I loved. Like right out of the gate, I said, this is probably the best performance that Bradley Cooper has ever given in his career. Like, he is awesome in this, and every moment he was on screen was very captivating, and it's one of his best characters he's had too. Jackson Maine, really memorable, very character. And Lady Gaga, I thought definitely when she's like on stage singing those scenes, very good, and she feels very comfortable, and she feels like she's really channeling in. When she gets to those confrontational scenes and some of the romantic scenes and where they're building up the chemistry and everything, she's good. She passes for sure. I mean, it's not like she's terrible or anything, but I was just not as high on her performance. Now I definitely think she's probably going to get nominated for it and all that. But I would be very let down at this rate, you know. And again, having not seen a lot of the other contenders in that category yet, I'd be a little let down if she's the one that ends up winning. But if Cooper wins, again, just based on what I've seen, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. And he's been nominated 3 times before, so he's definitely on their radar. And I think Lady Gaga is certainly now on everybody's radar for that. So we'll see. Yeah, for the overall film itself, I think Cooper's directorial debut here, it's good. It's nothing that 60 other directors out in Hollywood couldn't do. I mean, there are a couple of points where it just feels like anybody, like Spielberg could have directed. Well, maybe not Spielberg. It doesn't have that glossy feel that like Janusz Kaminski has. But it could have been Eastwood who directed it. It could have been, maybe if Greta Gerwig had gotten a bigger budget last year, she could have directed it. Yeah, it just didn't have a very distinct directorial view or anything like that really made it stand out from other kind of films like this, where it's the kind of rise and fall storyline. And since we've already seen 3 other versions of A Star Is Born through the years, it's tough to really stand out. And well, I think thinking back, I haven't seen the original 38 or 37 version, whatever, with Janet Gaynor and Frederick March. But I have seen the 50s version with Judy Garland. I saw it a long time ago. So and James Mason. I haven't seen it very recently. It was years and years ago. But I remember very much liking that. And the 70s version with Streisand and Chris Christopherson, I have not seen that one in a while either. I think a little more recently than the 50s version. But I remember it was, I liked it, but I can see where a lot of people come down on it like, oh, it's the cheesiest thing you've ever seen. And I think this version of Star Is Born is probably, if I rewatch that 70s one, probably going to stand up better than that one will, but I don't know if it touches the 50s Judy Garland version. And yeah, so that, and as far as the rest of the thing goes, like Sam Elliott, he's getting a lot of clout right now for supporting actor. If he gets nominated, okay, I think he's very much a supporting actor. He gets maybe 5 or 6 scenes. Like, he is not like a like a Sam Rockwell last year, who was the most important male character in the film, even though he probably should have been in that supporting category. Or like a Jared Leto, who becomes a big through line once he's introduced in Dallas Buyers Club. It's kind of more along the lines of like a Mahershala Ali, who's a big part in the first third of Moonlight, but then of course vanishes for the last 2 bits of that one. And yeah, so it's, yeah, that's the thing. It would have to be one of those kind of roles where the Oscars are okay with it, because, they were okay with something like that with Mahershala, even though his screen time didn't help him, I think, in that case. I think, the performance itself and the fact that he was in Moonlight, definitely led him to the victory lap there. But, yeah, it would have to be, I mean, I can't, let me just look it up again just to make sure I'm remembering his name. But the guy who won for Lust for Life, the supporting actor in that. Let me see if I can even find it here. What was his name? It was Anthony Quinn, was it? Yeah, it was Anthony Quinn. Like, he supposedly only had like 4 minutes of screen time, which is probably pretty close to what Sam Elliott has, and he still managed to win an Oscar. Now, yeah, we'll get to him in supporting actor. I don't have him in my list right now to be nominated, but yeah, we'll get more on that later. But who really impressed me in the film, though, was Andrew Dice Clay, who normally I am not a fan of. I just don't respond to his comedy at all or anything. But man alive, he actually, when he was there, he actually gives a dramatic performance, and he did very, very well. for that. And yeah, I think my biggest critique of the film though is definitely the script and the overall story. It's just so been there, done that. There was not a ton that excited me. Um, there's a couple lines of dialogue here and there, like one of the last lines that Sam Elliott has. I don't want to give it away for those who haven't seen it yet, but there's one last little kind of mini monologue that he gives to another character. I don't even want to say who the other character is because, again, it's kind of a spoiler. But where he kind of describes something, and I don't want to give it away, but that part was good. There's a couple lines here and there that stand out, but otherwise it's a very by the numbers script. Surprising coming from Cooper, who had a hand in it, and Eric Roth, who usually does a good job, but it was pretty old hat is what I would call it. So yeah, so I definitely think it does not deserve, just based on that, a screenplay nomination, but we'll see. I don't know how it's a few people are betting on it for screenplay, but I'm not there yet for myself, anyways. So yeah, so I liked it, but it wasn't. I doubt it's going to be on my top 10 of the year or anything like that. Yeah. So kind of the way we saw like La La Land get a big backlash a couple years ago, or to an extent. Three Billboards. They were two very different kind of negative reactions to it. But with La La Land, it was kind of a it's good, but is it really that good? I feel like with Star is Born, I feel like that kind of backlash could very much happen in a month, 2 months from now. So not say I'm not say I'm rooting for it or anything, but it's like I could see it happening. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on from that, Widows is my number 8 pick. Number 9 is Black Panther for me, and number 10 is Vice, which we finally got the first trailer for. And it does look like a fun movie. Well, fun, but at the same time, like it also has a couple kind of more dramatic and at times ironic scenes. Which and Christian Bale looks like he is very much going to be in the Best Actor list. Him and Cooper are going to duke it out at a couple ceremonies here and there, and it looks like, from what little screen time we got, both Amy Adams and Sam Rockwell look like they do a good job in their supporting roles. Steve Carell, like a lot of these, with the exception of like Rockwell and Adams, it's like they look pretty much the same, just maybe with a little bit of makeup here and there. But like Carell and especially Christian Bale, it's like almost unrecognizable at first. So so good on to them. When we get to like the makeup category, so Vice is probably going to be like Into the Woods and Rush and a couple of those other films in recent years where it's like the obvious one, and then the short list kicks it out for no good reason at all. I'm still pissed at that branch for like giving the Oscar to Suicide Squad one year and all that. So yeah. Anyway, so those are my 10 up to 10 for now. Can You Ever Forgive Me is one I've been kind of taking a lot more seriously in the last couple of weeks here. I'm not ready, of course, to jump in on it yet, but and that's the thing though, is it's got a good shot to be nominated for like screenplay, lead actress, and supporting actor right now, but other than that, it's really going to struggle to get into any other categories right now. Maybe director, because it's Marielle Heller, who's one of the few female directors right now. And another thing too, we can keep in mind with Marielle Heller is that her next film is the Mr. Rogers biopic. Well, kind of biopic, I guess, but it was formerly titled "You Are My Friend," but now they might be trying to find a new title. And the picture that came out of Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers was pretty spot on. So I'm very excited for that one. But also this one looks very, very good. Can You Ever Forgive Me? So we'll see if that, I mean, other than director, the only other category maybe would be like film editing or something like that. Because it doesn't look like there's a lot of production design, not a lot of costume design. I don't know about cinematography, but it looks pretty standard in that way. So it's looking at, those three that I have it in for right now. Picture, director, up to 6 would be the top there, but I don't know if it can even get that. Let's see. Also, trying to fight their way into Best Picture, we've got Eighth Grade. We've got Mary Queen of Scots. We got Bohemian Rhapsody, which we just had some screenings for that over the weekend. It sounds like from those screenings, at least, the movie itself is pretty good, is what I'm hearing from it. Rami Malek is evidently a shoo-in to be nominated now. I was on the fence and I had actually taken him out for a while, but now I've put him back in. So sounds like he is good to go for getting a nomination, at least at this rate. Now obviously that can change in the next few weeks leading up to release. Beautiful Boy still trying to hang in there. That goes into limited release this weekend. Yeah, we'll see how it does. I think Timothée is right now the best shot that movie has at getting any nominations. Otherwise, it kind of really fell apart. Boy Erased really started fast with a lot of great reviews, and everybody said Joel Edgerton really did it this time. But now it has really fallen just as quickly. All of a sudden, it's really left the conversation for a lot of nominations. Like at one point, Nicole Kidman looked like she was a shoo-in. Now I don't have her in. Either Russell Crowe or Edgerton for supporting actor, but now neither one of them are in. And Lucas Hedges at one point was very much touted as an early lock to be nominated, but now nobody has him nominated right now. So yeah, we'll have to see how that one, if it can survive. Let's see, we got a couple more here, kind of outliers here. The Front Runner, some people are still talking about. I don't know. We'll have to see because some of the reviews are very mixed on that one. Crazy Rich Asians still hanging in there. We'll see. You know, yeah. It's gonna have to. We'll get to the Golden Globes conversation at a later video, but yeah, that one has a little bit of an uphill battle to fight at the Oscars, but maybe not at the Globes. We'll get there. We'll get there. Last one I'll mention here is The Mule, which entered the race all of a sudden. It's Clint Eastwood is back, both in front and behind the camera in the same project. And kind of like Redford, it kind of sounds like this could be his swan song in front of the camera. I don't know, maybe behind the camera too. I don't know. Based off the reviews of that other movie he did this year that everybody forgot about already. It was like 1413 to Paris or whatever it was called, something like that. Yeah, the trailer came out for that. I've seen it a couple times. Trailer was pretty entertaining. I think if it's going to get nominated for anything, it would probably be Eastwood. Bradley Cooper has a big supporting role in it, but I think Warner Brothers, same studio as Star is Born, they're really going to want to focus their attention on Best Actor for him. Diane Weiss showed up for a couple shots in there. I haven't seen her in a movie in a long time, so looked like she had kind of a little tender part there. So we'll see if we'll see if maybe she can get a nomination out of it. Maybe. I don't know if it's even a role that lends itself to being nominated. So who knows at this rate. Okay, so those are the ones there. Now let me just go down because the Gold Derby odds, that's what I'm looking at just right now, have Roma out front. And I've seen a lot of people really, really, really saying Roma is going to win Best Picture. And I don't know. I'm almost flashing back to last year when everybody said Dunkirk had this thing locked down. Well, maybe not locked down, but you get what I mean. A lot of people at this rate last year were saying Dunkirk is going to win, and I was like, no, it's not. And you can look up my videos from last year from this early on. I said, no way. I said, number one, it's not going to get a SAG Ensemble nomination, and it didn't. Number two, eventually when the Me Too movement really picked up, and we saw all the guys get shooed out of Hollywood that deserve to and everything. But when that happened, I was like, well, look at that was when I was starting to make my predictions for like 3 Billboards winning Best Picture and stuff. I just said we're gonna have a film this year that's going to have either a female lead or a big female empowerment kind of role, or directed by a female in the case of like Greta Gerwig and stuff. I said it's a big year to support women in Hollywood, and as it turned out, Shape of Water ended up winning with a female lead, so I was right on that, even if I wasn't right betting on the right horse, but still. Yeah, so I was just looking at Call Me By Your Name first before I switched over to 3 Billboards. So anyways, but going back to this year though, Roma, the big thing of course is no foreign language film has ever won Best Picture. Never happened. It's a real struggle to even get them nominated for Best Picture anymore. Like back in the 50s and 60s, we'd seen like going back to like La Dolce Vita and Marriage American Style or Marriage Italian Style, whatever those, a lot of those kind of films. They weren't always Best Picture nominations, but they were up for like director or screenplay, sometimes an acting race. we saw them really integrated in there at some points. We saw Life is Beautiful got nominated 20 years ago this year. Amour, of course, in 2012. So there are kind of odd examples you can pick out, but I kind of relate it more to like when horror films and those kind of thriller films get nominated for Best Picture. It just doesn't happen very often. Like we saw like Silence of the Lambs, uh, The Exorcist. You can go to Sixth Sense. You can go to last year with Get Out. It just every so often it happens. Now I think Roma is definitely going to be nominated. You know, based off the buzz, it's 98 or 99% Rotten Tomatoes score and everything. Alfonso Cuarón is the director, and he's been very very heavily favored by the Academy over the last few years, especially with Gravity. So yeah, I think he's and I think he is very much a lock to be nominated for director, even if he's not going to win. Which right now I have him not winning, but we'll get into that more later. But I've seen a lot of people like Ann Thompson and a few others saying he is 100% going to win Best Director. So it's like, okay, it's October, so we'll see if you can stick to your guns for another 4 months, but we'll see. It could happen. It could happen. So that's the big obstacle it has to overcome. Is it has to really, there are still a lot of voters in the Academy and just general audiences out there domestically that just don't have the patience, don't have the don't have the balls, I guess you could say, if you want to go in that way, to sit through a film that's not in English where you have to read subtitles the whole time. And you know what? I enjoy a good foreign film every now and again, but it's not always my go-to. There's definitely good ones and bad ones, but the fact that you have to read subtitles that's never been an issue for me. So yeah, but that's something we're gonna see if the Academy really is past that or not, because back in the day maybe again every now and again they'd be fine with nominating one, but yeah, it's gonna be a struggle there. Number two is the Netflix factor. Now, we saw Mudbound really break through last year in categories like Supporting Actress, Adapted Screenplay, Original Song, and what was the fourth? Cinematography was the fourth nomination there. And Netflix is no stranger to like the documentary categories and stuff like that, so it's not like Netflix had never ever been nominated before last year, but this was the first time last year that it really broke into big top categories and was really had their eyes on the prize there. And kind of the immediate reaction after Best Picture nominations were announced were, why wasn't Mudbound nominated for Best Picture? It was really kind of a big conversation that was going on for a while. So yeah, but again, with word of mouth and everything on this, I think Roma will be the first Netflix film to be nominated for picture and director. Could break into Best Actress. Very well could break into original screenplay, but it wouldn't be the first screenplay nomination for Netflix, but one of the first, and the first in that specific category. Yeah, so it could very much break in a big way, but we'll have to see if there's just enough people in the Academy who just still are not on board with the Netflix thing, if they're going to hold it back or not. But yeah, that remains to be seen. And number three, another big argument I had against Dunkirk last year was the biggest branch of the Academy is the acting branch. Can you get anybody from Dunkirk nominated? The answer was no. Now Roma though does have. Let me just make sure I get her name right. I gotta pull it up here. Yalitza Aparicio, who's pretty much an unknown, non-professional actress who is the competing in lead actress this year. Yeah, she's pretty much the only bet, and sometimes one is enough. What was it? Argo only had one acting nomination. Let's see, The Artist had two. King's Speech had three. There was another. Well, we've seen movies like Slumdog Millionaire didn't have any acting nominations. That's still one. Return of the King didn't have any acting nominations. That's still one. Typically though, it's one or it's two or three that get nominated in the acting races. But you don't have to. You don't have to. But as long as you have some kind of support there, usually it's a good sign. Again, you do have examples where nobody gets nominated in the acting races and it wins Best Picture, but yeah, those examples are 10 years plus, so it's been a while. It's been quite a while. So, but otherwise, another thing against Dunkirk was the screenplay thing. But it looks like Roma, since it's an original this year, and original this year is kind of emptying out a little bit. Yeah, or at least competition wise is what I'm getting at here. Looks like it's a good bet to be nominated. And it looks like across the tech categories, it's going to have like cinematography, editing, potentially. It's set in I think it's late 70s, early 80s, something like that. It's definitely in the 70s, from what I've read and stuff. So maybe production design and costume design play into that a little bit. I don't know. There's no score to it, so it's definitely one category we can guarantee is not going to be nominated as original score. But maybe some of the sound categories could play in too. Yeah, so it could be Netflix's first film to have 10 plus nominations. Could be. Well, that's even a stretch at this rate because it'd have to be director, picture, actress, screenplay. I'm just counting through my head right now. Cinematography, editing. It would have to be both production design, costume design, plus sound categories. So that could be a stretch at this rate, sure. But yeah, we'll have to see about that. But yeah, right now I have it in fifth. I think it's a good bet for sure to be nominated. Is it going to win? Right now, I say no, but yeah, we'll see. We'll have this argument continue through the rest of the season here. It would have to be a very historic win for it to come over those factors. Okay, before we continue, just want to make sure my computer doesn't die. So before we get into Best Director, I'm going to plug that in, and now we're ready. Okay, so for Best Director, I'm going with Spike Lee right now, and if I can get off topic for a second here, yeah, you guys know last year there was a big yeah, we'll start with the La La Land Moonlight thing from a couple years ago. Part of the reason, and I wrote a big article about this at the time. I don't know if you can even find it anywhere on Movie Blogger. I don't know. Try to look it up. Maybe it's there. But I made an article it was like a week or two after Moonlight had won Best Picture, where I said, pretty much in so many words, that like the big reason that Moonlight upset at the Oscars was because of race and because of a response to Oscars So White and everything. And looking back on that, I think I stand by that, with one exception, and that is also at the time I didn't mention it at all, but Twitter played a big role in that, more than the backlash to La La Land, which we've seen movies get backlashed before, and they still managed to play well at the Oscars. Like Juno had a big backlash, and that still won a couple categories, or at least one for screenplay. What was the other one? I just thought of it. Now I forgot it. Damn. Birdman. Yeah, Birdman had a lot of negative opinions against it, but that still pulled through. So, yeah. We saw that again, of course, with three Billboards last year. Was a lot of Twitter bullshit back and forth, and it just really irritated me. And you guys saw last year in a couple of those videos, I really got unhinged at a couple people. Anyways, but Twitter has just been a very interesting player now in the Oscar race the last couple of years. We'll see if it plays again this year. Already it kind of did with First Man and the No American Flags stuff, but I think that kind of lived for a while and then it died. So we've seen a couple people now poking fun at it, so I think we're past it. But anyways, I'll tell you what though, there's one thing, looking through Oscar history, of course, there have been 7 occasions where we've seen a non-white male director win for this category. The exceptions, of course, are Catherine Bigelow, the only female director to win at this point. We've seen one Asian American director, Ang Lee, win twice, so that counts. Yep, that's 3 times. Then we saw Iñárritu win twice, Cuarón win once, and last year Del Toro won. So that's 7 Best Director winners who are not white, not male. And you look at the because there's a Wikipedia page of records on Best Director category at the Oscars or whatever it's called, something like that. And you pull up and it says winners who are not who are minorities and everything. Basically not white, not male. And it's like, yeah, there's a winner here, no winners here, and that little stanza there is for African American directors. And this year we've got a lot of in comparison to the past few years, a lot of non-white directors up for this prize. We've got Cuarón back in the race, Spike Lee, of course. We've got Barry Jenkins. We've got Ryan Coogler, potentially with Black Panther, maybe. We'll see. We've got Steve McQueen in there for Widows. We've got Mariel Heller for Can You Ever Forgive Me? We've got Josie Rourke for Mary Queen of Scots. We've got John M. Chu for Crazy Rich Asians. We've got Mimi Leader there. I was looking for her name. I was looking through the list here. Mimi Leader for On the Basis of Sex. That one hasn't screened yet. That could be a long shot. But that's 9 non-white, non-male directors out there. Now, of course, I know, coming from a white guy here, I know that's that's something. But it's like, you look at that, and it's like, even me, it's like, we should correct that. We should definitely have had, in 90 years, it'd be 91 years now, of Oscars, we've never seen a black director win, really. It's like, we should change that. So, going back to the Twitter thing for a second, I am all in favor of somebody out there. If you're watching this right now, start a campaign on Twitter, or if you're at Focus Features, which is Black Klansman, you have to really, in the next couple months, or well, maybe not in the next couple months, I would say by the end of the month, early November, to get ready for those critics groups and the regional awards, get Spike Lee's name out there big time. I know Black Klansman, I think, is... let's see if I can find it. I think it's planning to come out on disc and streaming and all that in December. It's either December or late November. I think it's before. Okay, maybe around Thanksgiving. I think is when it's supposed to come out on disc and everything. I'll buy a copy for sure because it's still number 2 on my list of best films of the year. It's amazing. Seriously, if Black Klansman is still playing, you haven't seen it yet, go see it. It's awesome. But anyways. Yeah, if you're Focus Features, play up the fact that it's Spike Lee. Because number one, this guy arguably should have won Best Director of the year of Do the Right Thing. Looking back on it, he definitely should have been number 1 nominated for the year of Malcolm X, because that's Malcolm X, I think, is the best film of that year. I think it was 92, yeah. We saw Denzel nominated, but I think he was the only nomination for the film. Spike Lee should have been nominated in that category, should have won. This guy should already have a couple Oscars on his mantle, and I think he does have a. I think he won an honorary one at one point. I think so, didn't he? Yeah, he won in 2015. He had an honorary award, but very much in the way of like a Paul Newman years ago, who won. He won an honorary Oscar, and then the next year he had Color of Money out, and they gave him another Oscar just like that. It's, we've seen that happen a couple more times. That's the one example I always go to. But, and this was 3 years ago, and, most of the time, the honorary Oscar winners, it's like, oh, you clap for them when they show up on Oscar night, and they're, they do the wave to the camera, and then you forget about them. And it's like, and then they pass away years and years later, hopefully, for most of them, and you're like, they won an honorary Oscar for this, and you're like, oh, I thought, because most of the time they'd never even been nominated. Or if they were, then they never won before. So it's like, it's, as from what I remember, Spielberg won an honorary Oscar before he won for Schindler's List. So it's not like once you have that honorary Oscar, you're done. It's like, no, Spike Lee could make, he could make 20, 30 more films before he's all said and done. And yeah, we'll have to see, how good those films are and everything. But it's like, so if you're, especially, going back to the Twitter thing, if you're on Twitter and you want to see this corrected, this is one Twitter tirade I would definitely support, is to see Spike Lee nominated this year. At least nominated. At least get him nominated. Now, if he wins, I'd be all for it. But yeah. So yeah, that's I'm going on the Spike Lee train. I'm going to stay on it until there's a very clear front runner. Once we get to like the regional awards and Globes and the DGA, of course, and a couple other categories like that. But until we see somebody really big time step up, I'm going to stick with Spike Lee. I'm sticking to my guns. Sticking to my guns. Okay, what guns? I know. Anyways, Barry Jenkins is my number 2 pick here. And I have Barry in second place. Number 1, because if Beale Street Could Talk is my Best Picture winner right now, so I naturally would have him next up. And again, another African-American director there. And he, unlike Spike, okay, I won't say unlike Spike Lee, who's got many Oscar IOUs. But Barry has one especially because he did not win director for Moonlight, and that won Best Picture. And I know, yes, in recent years, director and picture have really split. Last year was an exception. Birdman was an exception. Before that, you have to go back to the artist. So, yeah, so I know they've been splitting recently, but it's like, yeah, and sure, Barry did pick up an Oscar for writing and for writing the screenplay for Moonlight, co-writing it. So he does have an Oscar already. He was not a producer on Moonlight though, so he didn't win there. But yeah, he's a guy. If you're gonna give it to anybody other than Spike Lee this year for that stuff, just again from the trailers of If Beale Street Could Talk and the word of mouth and everything else on it, it's like, yeah, he sounds very very deserving. And again, that trailer is beautiful, beautiful. So I know I wasn't as high on Moonlight as everybody else was, but you know what? If that's the result where I wasn't as high on Moonlight, but I like If Beale Street Could Talk more than everybody else, then okay, that's the boat I'll be in. I don't care. So yeah, but that immediately has jumped up on my scale of must see movies for the rest of the year. So yeah, I'm very excited about that one. I do have Damien Chazelle in third for First Man, and then Cuarón for Roma. I know down in fourth. I might bump him up to third maybe pretty soon. Then I have Yorgos Lanthimos in fifth place for The Favorite, and yeah, so that means I'm leaving Bradley Cooper out right now. I know it's kind of a question mark right now because it's like, well, you look at history, it's like, well, last year we just saw both Jordan Peele and Greta Gerwig nominated their first time as actors turned directors on their first shot, so that doesn't happen, very often where you have two in the same year. Then you look at the long list. It's like Orson Welles, the first time he directed, he was nominated. Warren Beatty, the first time he was nominated when he directed a film. Kevin Costner. Mel Gibson had he had another film before Braveheart, but that was his big coming out party as a now turned director, and he won. So and Costner won, and Beatty won for Reds, and he was a co-director on Heaven Can Wait. He was nominated for that, so it's the second time he won. So yeah, it happens. It very, very much happens. I know there's probably a couple other examples out there I'm forgetting right now, but yeah, so he could definitely be nominated. But again, for me right now, it's like, yeah, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough for him to get in right now because look at this. There's a lot of stiff competition out there. Yorgos he's been a director who I think the films that he's made, even if I personally haven't seen them, they've been seen by a lot of people, especially in the Academy. So even though they haven't nominated before, they know who he is and they know his work. So that's why and with The Favorite being probably the film more so than his others that's going to get a big kind of mainstream success because of its stars, because of its subject matter and everything. It's definitely going to be his highest grossing film through his filmography, at least I'm guessing at this rate. And the movie looks very good, very interesting, very entertaining. So yeah. So we'll see if he can ride that out. But right now, I have him down in fifth. Yeah, because he's kind of the weak link right now, just based on that. Because The Favorite very much peaked after its showings at Venice and at Telluride. But then it hasn't been seen since until New York, which, yeah, the reviews are still coming in very, very good for that. But there's a couple people who didn't like it. So it kind of reminds me a lot of Birdman in that way, where it's got a very comedic tone from what I'm sensing, but at the same time there's some dramatic moments. There's evidently a plethora of great performances and a great ensemble in the film. So yeah, we'd have to see. And of course, we saw Iñárritu win director that year. So I don't know if Yorgos can go all the way, but yeah. As long as he gets nominated, I think that helps. For the other directors out there, we mentioned Coogler and McQueen. Now, I would say McQueen has a better shot at this rate than Coogler does, but we'll have to see how big a player Black Panther is. Because again, I have it in my number 9 spot for picture right now, but other than that, you have to go to like maybe the cinematography, production design, costume design, visual effects, those categories. Because I don't see like Chadwick getting a Best Actor nomination. I don't quite see Michael B. Jordan getting his first nomination for playing a Marvel villain, even though he was a great Marvel villain. Yeah, I don't see anybody I don't see Letitia Wright being nominated for supporting actress. I don't see it getting in for screenplay. Yeah, it would have to be like one of those Dunkirk nominations. But even Dunkirk had directors, so yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, we mentioned Peter Farrelly for Green Book. Green Book would have to really has to take off in the next few months. Fairly, I think for him to get nominated for director, he's going to have to start winning some critics groups too. Which I know right now that really sounds like a stretch because I think the critics groups are going to fall in love with Roma. They're going to love Roma. If not, maybe Spike Lee. Maybe Spike Lee. I would hope. I would really hope and pray that that happens because I want to see him win. But yeah, Peter Farrelly would have to break through all of that and past everybody else to win a lot of those. And right now, I don't know. Then you got Adam McKay for Vice. He was just nominated a couple years ago for The Big Short. Vice is going to have to really be very, very good since it's coming in late and skipped all the festivals. Still possible, but right now I don't quite see him getting in. We mentioned Marielle Heller. Again, that film has to really take off too. Anybody else? Well, we mentioned a couple like Josie Rourke and Mimi Leader. Again, we'll have to see because the thing is, and I kind of mentioned this last year, kind of early on, before I thought Get Out was going to be a big player. Is you have to remember with the Academy with the diversity thing. Just if I can get myself in trouble for a minute, probably, but we have to remember it's there's no written law that says you have to have a female director nominated every year, or a African American director nominated every year, or an African American actor or actress nominated every year. You vote on the work itself. You let everything else, bullshit aside. You leave all that out of it, and you just focus on the performance. And for the most part, I think the Academy very much got it right last year. Personally, I would have booted out Greta for a couple other ones, but that's just me. I think definitely Jordan Peele should have gotten in last year, and he deserved it. Greta, I'm glad her screenplay got in because I think the screenplay was probably the strongest work of that film, other than performances were really good too. I'll need to rewatch that again just to see if it holds up, maybe more so on the second watch, because the first watch I was like, while I was watching it I was very entertained, but looking back I was like, yeah, it was good, really good, but that's about it. I didn't necessarily have a big desire to go back and watch it again and again. So, anyways, but right now it looks like we've got potentially 2 or 3, maybe 4 of our best director nominees could be minorities, where it's going to be non-white male directors. But the problem is they'd all be male at this rate by what I'm seeing here. So again, so that's the thing: is somebody like a Marielle Heller going to come up because she deserves it and because the film deserves it, or is it just going to be because of the chromosomes? I don't know. And I know it's a conversation that some people just want to ignore, and they just want to equality all the way through. But it's like, well, you have to, this is about the Oscars. It's about the work. It's about, all that stuff. It's not about all that other stuff. Anyways, well, that's been my stance on it. But anyways, okay, let's move on here to the acting categories now for for actor. Christian Bale up front for Vice, then Ryan Gosling for First Man. Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born in third, Viggo Mortensen for Green Book in fourth, and Rami Malek in fifth for Bohemian Rhapsody. This category right now looks like the most stacked for the acting races this year. And I think Bale is very safe right now. Cooper is very safe at this rate. Those are the only 2 that I can absolutely guarantee you are going to get nominated. I could see Viggo potentially fall off. He's probably my number 3 right now, actually, for like absolute locks. I think Ryan Gosling is very popular with all the voting bodies, so that's why I have him getting in. But I've seen, there's a few criticisms with the film that say, his performance is very kind of one note, or maybe not one note, but that's, phrases like that have been tossed around. Very monotone, very stoic and everything. We've seen that be nominated before, but, it's true to the character, so I guess that's or to the real person, to Neil Armstrong. So yeah, but yeah, I think just on his popularity, that's why I'm saying he still gets nominated. And going back to Viggo for a minute, we've seen even something like Captain Fantastic, he got nominated for that, which I went back and saw after the nominations were out, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah, he should be nominated for that. He was great. So it looks like he does a very good job in Green Book too, and both him and Mahershala look very good. So yeah. And then, Rami, I kind of mentioned it there, since all the all the early screenings of Bohemian Rhapsody sound like they are singing his praises for sure. To yes, pun intended, singing his praises. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the movie. So, anyways, so yeah, when you look at the lineup though of other potential nominees, it's like Willem Dafoe has At Eternity's Gate, where he plays Van Gogh, just nominated last year for Florida Project. Probably should have won. Um, yeah, he could strike back. He very much as a favorite. I could see this role. I could see the Critic Scoops going for it if they don't want to go with say Vigo, or I don't know if they'll go for Christian Bale or Bradley Cooper. Maybe Vigo. Vigo has won a couple of those Critics Prizes before, or they could go with the Octogenarians. They could go with either Clint Eastwood or Robert Redford for their roles. Um, Interesting enough, though, Gold Derby actually posted a video not too long ago where it was Pete Hammond, Tom O'Neill, and Ann Thompson going back and forth. And Ethan Hawke's name came up a couple times for this movie, First Reformed, which was not on my radar at all. It came out early in the year, kind of came and went at the box office, but a lot of people very much have been talking about him and his role, I guess, in it. And when you look at history, it's like, well, Hawke, he was nominated for Training Day, nominated twice for Screenplay, just nominated for Boyhood a couple years ago. So he has a lot of popularity in the Academy. So they mentioned something like, we've seen in the last few years the Screen Actors Guild Awards. They always have a weird nominee somewhere, like Helen Mirren getting in twice a couple of years ago for Trumbo and Woman in Gold. Like last year, Steve Carell really came out of nowhere for Battle of the Sexes in the supporting category. So it's like, wow, we've seen a couple of those weird ones before. So, yeah, or, at least at that rate, a couple of years ago, we saw when Vigo got in for Captain Fantastic, both of the Globes and SAG, it was like, wow, that really came out of nowhere. And, of course, he continued from there. But, yeah, Ethan Hawke could be that weird fifth slot at the SAG Awards. So that's at least the warning they were, warning signs they were putting out. So, hey. Yeah, I'll say you heard it there first, and then I'm coming back on it later and saying, okay, well, if you say so. I mean, some of those guys know it better than I do. Let's see. For the rest of the lineup, you got Steve Carell, Beautiful Boy. He's very popular again with like SAG and Globe, so I could see him. I could see him sneaking in there. He'd have to get both, and he'd have to get like Critics' Choice and a couple of those other ones, I think, to really nail it. But it's a tough category. Then we get to Lucas Hedges' Boy Erased, Hugh Jackman, frontrunner, Clint Eastwood for The Mule. We'll have to see if somebody like a John David Washington maybe for Black Klansman. John C. Reilly got a lot of great reviews for Sisters Brothers, but unfortunately that one has really died at the box office here. So we'll see if, I don't know, maybe if that one hits on the screeners really well in the next couple months. I think Sisters Brothers will compete as a comedy at the Globes, and when we get to the Globes conversation, all of a sudden John C. Reilly all of a sudden could be a bigger threat there than we were initially thinking. So yeah. So there's a lot of possibilities in that category, but yeah. Okay, moving on to Best Actress now. This category again is very, very competitive. Like the last couple of years. It's usually been competitive in the way of getting down to 5 nominations for sure. Just so happened last year it was a very early pick for, well, not early, but once we got it figured out that it was going to be Frances McDormand, it was like, yep, nothing's going to change that. In the same way, Emma Stone, once she really kicked on at the Globes and stuff, it was like, yep, she's got the Oscar. So competition-wise, yeah, it hasn't been the most, this race has not been the most competitive in recent years, but we could see that change big time this year, not just with getting it down to 5, but also who the hell's going to win this damn award? I mean, it could be tons of people here. So right now I have Saoirse Ronan still out front for Mary Queen of Scots, sight unseen at this rate. I'm kind of going with her because it's a little bit of that ingenue factor. This would be her 4th nomination. She's really hot with them in the last few years. I think she's 20. Is she 25 yet? Or she's probably closer to 30. I don't know. I don't know how old she is, but I know she started out pretty young. So, a lot, we've seen like Jennifer Lawrence and Brie Larson win at 25 and younger in recent years. Emma Stone was right around that age when she won for La La Land. There's a few good examples there. So in very recent years, they do like to go with the younger actresses in this category. I've got Viola Davis in second for Widows, then Olivia Colman for The Favorite. But man, that's Fox Searchlight is. I think they're just as baffled and confused as we are on this film because from the sounds of it early on, it sounded like okay, they've got it settled. Coleman will be lead for The Favorite because she's the title. Well, not the title character, but she's she's the queen, the one that everybody wants to be the favorite of. So okay, that stands to reason she's going to be lead. And then Emma Stone and both her and Rachel Weisz would be in the supporting category. And especially since what I've heard, again, just word of mouth, I can't confirm it myself, but Emma Stone doesn't show up until like 20, 25, 30 minutes in. Which historically we've seen like Frances McDormand doesn't come into Fargo until past the half-hour point. She won Best Actress that year. Like Jennifer Lawrence doesn't come into Silver Linings Playbook until almost half an hour in, and she won Best Actress. So that doesn't always hamper it big time, but sometimes it does. Sometimes that makes a difference. But anyways, Rachel Weisz, from what I understand, is 100% going to be in that supporting category. No way that she can trump both of them and somehow end up in lead. That's the word of mouth that I'm hearing. It's just trying to figure out if Coleman is lead and Emma is supporting, if they're both lead, or if somehow they all end up in supporting, kind of like what Spotlight did a few years ago. I don't know. It's like at this rate, that's the early news was that, but now it's like, well, Emma could be lead and Olivia could be supporting, and Olivia could be lead and Emma could be lead. They could all go supporting. Man, that'd be tough. And I think it would be a very foolish decision by Fox Searchlight for them all to go supporting because. Looking at the competition, though, you do have Melissa McCarthy also for Can You Ever Forgive Me? That's another Fox Searchlight film. I don't know if you want to roll the dice and put all your chips on her in that one category. It makes sense to kind of split that with an Olivia Colman or a Emma Stone, whichever one you want to go with. And that kind of gives you a better chance for supporting. Now, basically, word on the street is this is kind of very, very reminiscent of Viola Davis a couple years ago for Fences, where at first everybody just assumed she was lead, but then everybody kind of looked at it where it's like, well, from the original play, there's enough material that she's not in where she could technically fall into that supporting actress category. And I early on, I remember saying, and I think it's in one of my videos, I said, if Viola goes supporting, she wins. It happened, a few months later, sure. But that could very much be the case for Olivia Colman this year, because I know she's not a household name. My Viola Davis was definitely a household name by the time she won for Fences, but Olivia has been, making her bones on a lot of TV stuff and everything. This would be her first big, obviously it'd be her first Oscar nomination, but also it would be her first big campaign in that way as an actress for film. And from what I hear, if she goes supporting, she could very easily win. So that could happen. At the same time, I do think it's not like, supporting actress that year of Fences and stuff. We did have like, Michelle Williams in Manchester by the Sea, Naomi Harris in Moonlight. There were a couple other options that year that could have duked it out. But once Viola was there, it was like, done. So we could see that happening in this year. But and we'll get to supporting actress in a minute here too. But we've got Regina King and Amy Adams and Margot Robbie for Mary Queen of Scots. Again, assuming she goes supporting, but I think that's early word is in on that. There's one other big one that I'm forgetting right now, but we'll get to it. Obviously, Emma is another one I have in there right now. But let's see, who's that other one I was thinking? Oh, Claire Foy, of course. Claire Foy for First Man is another one who might end up getting a bigger push. For that one, and she could end up supposedly, we'll see how Best Actor goes. She could be the only nominee for First Man in the acting race, so we'll have to see. Anyway, so yeah, but right for now I have Olivia for lead actress for The Favorite, and then Melissa McCarthy for Can You Ever Forgive Me. I have Lady Gaga down in fifth, but man, Lady Gaga is ahead by a lot of polls right now for Best Actress. I think that's just off the high of the movie being released, and she did get a lot of great reviews, again, off of all the film festivals and stuff. But for me, again, she was good. I wouldn't call it the best performance of the year, not by a long shot. It's it's not at that level of like a Streisand in Funny Girl or Bette Midler in The Rose, where somebody who's known as a music personality comes to film and just boom, big time, really, really gets it. And all of a sudden becomes an overnight sensation. I just, obviously since Lady Gaga was in the music world a lot, well, yeah, a lot longer, and in the pop culture longer than Streisand was before Funny Girl and before Midler was in The Rose. Some of you guys might argue me on that, but I don't know. I particularly think the opposite of that is true. But yeah, Lady Gaga, I think is she's been a known name for a while. So now coming over into film, we'll see how she does. But yeah, and then you look at the rest of the field. It's like Glenn Close we haven't mentioned for The Wife, and that's one. That's one I kind of mentioned early on. It's like it came out in like the very first weekend of August, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And right now, the film started out limited release and was really low at first. Then it expanded to kind of like the 500 theater count somewhere in there, and then it took off. And then it really, audiences started going to see it. And it's actually ended up making an okay amount of money for the, really small production that it is. But yeah, now it's really starting to tail off again. And I feel like unless that one really, again, kind of like with Spike Lee, going back to that for a minute, Glenn Close has been nominated 6 times and she hasn't won yet. So if it's Sony Pictures Classics is behind this one. If they really bump up that campaign and say, look, we've got Glenn Close in this movie. It's as far as I know, it's liked by critics, but I know a couple people that have given some kind of split reactions to it. Let me just see what's the tomato score on this one. Okay, 85%. Okay, mostly good reviews on that too. So it's critically well graded performance and everything. It's like, yeah, if Sony Pictures Classics really plays their cards right, they could get Glenn that Oscar this year. And personally, yeah, in the history books, if it reads at any point that Glenn Close, doesn't get an Oscar before it's all said and done, that's a crime. And I haven't seen the film yet, but yeah. Then we mentioned Yalitza Aparicio for Roma. It's a possibility. We saw Emmanuel Riva get in a couple years ago and almost win for Amour. She won BAFTA at least. She kind of came on strong in the last stretch before leading on to the Oscars there. Nicole Kidman for Destroyer got good reviews, but I feel like that one is starting to lose steam now. They just had a new trailer come out for Ben is Back, Julia Roberts' new film. It looks like she does a very good job, but there's not a lot of steam on that one right now either. I'm kind of curious about if maybe Kiki Lane could get in for If Beale Street Could Talk. Again, I know I'm kind of maybe a little overdoing it on this movie, but still, it's like it looks like she does a very good job from the trailer, and that's another one she kind of very young, pretty much unknown coming in to take that. Then we've got a couple more here. We've got Felicity Jones on the Basis of Sex. We kind of mentioned. We've got Keira Knightley is out. Colette is out right now. That's starting to do well in the independent markets. So we'll see if that one, again, it maybe was a little too early, but we'll have to see. And then we'll see if Emily Blunt can maybe get in for Mary Poppins Returns. Now, I know we mentioned that one a while ago because the first film, 13 nominations. It's like, I don't know how you can make a sequel and expect it to equal or do better than the original in regards to its Oscar campaigns and everything. But it's like, I don't know. Emily has never been nominated at the Oscars. Maybe that's the first try. I don't know. Could be. Okay, now for the supporting categories. I'm still on the Sam Rockwell train for Vice, and yeah, the trailer didn't give a whole bunch of him, but I get the sense that he'll have plenty to do in the movie. Again, it'd be the first time since Tom Hanks we see a back-to-back winner, but that's my guess for now. Again, I'll until we see something really significant come up, then we'll see. The odds-on favorite, though, right now is Timothée Chalamet for Beautiful Boy. I have him in second. It looks like he does a very good job in the film, very compelling performance and everything. Then I've got Mahershala Ali in third for Green Book. Daniel Kaluuya I still have in there for Widows, and Richard E. Grant for Can You Ever Forgive Me. Yeah, I would say Mahershala, Timothée are definite locks at this rate. The other three could go. Yeah, we'll have to see how Vice does. If it looks like Vice is only going to be really for Christian Bale and maybe Amy Adams and none of the supporting actors are good enough for, have a good enough role for that, then yeah, we'll see. We'll get there when we get there. I mentioned, yeah, Sam Elliott. The screen time in Star is Born is kind of troublesome. Again, there's examples of, like we mentioned, yeah, Michelle Williams a couple years ago in Manchester by the Sea. She had about 4 or 5 scenes and she got nominated. Really good scenes. And Sam Elliott, yeah, most of his scenes are pretty good. There's a couple scenes he has where he's kind of there and he's just, okay, he does this to advance the plot a little bit or to introduce his character or to show a new angle of his character, and that's kind of it. But there are a couple of very emotional beats with his character. Like there's one that's in the trailer, I think, and it's most of the time it's in the trailer. It's the shot where he grabs Bradley Cooper by the face. That's a pretty good exchange there. And then there's one exchange later on. I don't want to give too much away, but there's an exchange between him and Bradley Cooper that is very good, very good. And it's I don't want to give too much away, but it's yeah. I think if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But it's in the last act. I'll say that much. But anyways, very good, and I both great performance from Cooper, and then also a wonderful reaction from Sam Elliott. And again, we kind of mentioned this a couple. Was it last year that The Hero came out? The film he did, the ripoff of Birdman. He was good in it, and I kind of mentioned the time. I'm like, man, Sam Elliott should get an Oscar at some point, or at least a nomination for an Oscar, because he has always been a great actor. But it's like this time, I don't know, unless he really rides a wave like a Paul Newman or a couple years ago Julianne Moore for Still Alice or something like that. If he gets on a train like that where everybody just says, okay, we're going to give it to Sam Elliott this year. He's been around forever. Let's give him one. Unless something like that happens, I'm going to leave him on the side for right now. We mentioned Michael B. Jordan. I don't know if he's got it in him. Again, the movie came out early. Marvel has never even come close to getting an actor nomination anywhere, so we'll have to see. Let's see. We mentioned earlier on Russell Crowe for Boy Erased. We'll see. Stephen James is one I might go back on later and put in. Looks like he does a great job in If Beale Street Could Talk. Him in particular in the trailer, very impressive because I'd never seen him in anything before. At least I don't think. Well, unless he was like a background in Suicide Squad or something like that. I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, it looks like he's got some of the more emotional beats of that trailer, and I think especially the shot in the trailer where we first reveal he's in prison, and just the way he slowly looks up, I was like, I'm in. Yes, yes. So yeah, I actually have him nominated at the Globes, but not to give too much away there. But yeah, I could see him maybe sneaking into this category if the film really takes off at the Oscars. Let's see, and then there were a couple more. Maybe Steve Carell for Vice, maybe. The only other one was somebody I never heard of him. Russell Hornsby for The Hate U Give. That's another one. Maybe that could take off, but right now we'll have to see how it plays. So far in limited release, it's doing pretty well. But yeah, word is he's got a good part. I don't know what role does he have in that. If he's like the dad in the film or what the story is, but. Yes, he would be the father character. Yeah, and in the trailer, he's got a good line where he's like, "I named you Star for a reason," and he with 2 R's. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I've mentioned that before, but yeah. Okay, so let's move on to supporting actress now. I've got Regina King still up front for If Beale Street Could Talk. I think I'll leave her there for a while, and I think you guys caught up. Well, you guys, I shouldn't say. Those of you who are watching specifically, but like the odds are now favoring Regina King right now to win for that. Then I have Margot Robbie for Mary Queen of Scots, and then Claire Foy for First Man, then Emma Stone for The Favorite. I've got her in supporting right now. She could switch. Yeah, I think if she switches, does that automatically mean she gets in for Best Actress? Not automatically. Not quite. And I think if Olivia Colman switches and now she goes from lead to supporting, I think that's an automatic. Yeah, she gets in over Emma Stone. And then I have Amy Adams in for Vice in 5th place. Yeah, again, competition-wise, this and Best Supporting Actor are kind of slim pickings right now. Again, we could see Rachel Weisz get in for The Favorite, as long as she doesn't somehow end up in lead. Nicole Kidman, Boy Erased, is one still getting thrown around a little bit. Michelle Yeoh for Crazy Rich Asians. pretty fun role. Not fun role. She is pretty gets a couple really bitch moments in the film, but I enjoyed seeing her. I hadn't seen her in a long time in a movie, so I'm like, oh yeah, Michelle Yeoh is always good. And then Natalie Portman, they just announced officially from Neon, who picked up the film Vox Lux. Natalie Portman, originally I thought she was going to be the lead in the film, but she's going to be supporting because I guess she doesn't come in until the halfway point anyway. So it's like, yeah, you don't really get nominated for a lead role if you come in halfway through. Yeah, even something like Dev Patel a couple years ago, for Lion, it's like, yeah, at first everybody thought he was lead, but then it's like, yeah, nope, he doesn't come in until halfway. So, or at that point, it's like 45 minutes, I think, in that movie. But anyways, too much time. So. Yeah, she's going to be supporting for that. Now, it's too bad because I was thinking, I think no, I didn't give this example last time, no, but, you guys know I write for Cultured Vultures. When this broke that Neon had picked it up, I wrote an article about it, and I said, Neon last year, of course, had I, Tonya, which I think really cemented its status in, like, especially for, like, Margot Robbie and the film itself when it got 3 nominations at the Globes for film, Robbie, and Janney. And I said, if Natalie Portman can do kind of like what Margot did last year, where he land that nomination there and really say, "Yep, I'm here to stay," then yeah, then that would have helped. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you're going supporting, you're going supporting. So yeah, we'll see. Because I think competition, yeah, definitely in this category is not quite as strong as lead. So Natalie could end up with her would it be her 5th nomination or her 4th? Let's see, Closer, Black Swan. Am I missing one in there? Because was Jackie her 3rd or her 4th? I think her 3rd. Let's see here. That's not what I wanted. I'm trying to find it. Oh, here we go. This would be her 4th nomination. So, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, the only other one there is Sissy Spacek for Old Man and the Gun, but right now it looks like that one, Redford's going to be the main focus on that one. Okay, then for the screenplay categories, real quick, original screenplay, I have The Favorite, I have Vice, Green Book, Roma, and 8th Grade. Right now, I think that's it for that category right now. I mean, the next one up in the odds is First Reformed, but I don't know. Then A Quiet Place, which I don't know. I just don't quite see, because there's no dialogue in that movie. If you're going to get nominated for a screenplay, you have to have, at least some witty dialogue or some fun lines in there. I always call it the sparkling screenplay. You've got to have some memorable lines, but no, not that movie. What's the most popular line in that movie? Something like "Run" or whatever. Yeah, that's not got nominated. No way. Coen Brothers, always look out for them. They've got Ballad of Buster Scruggs, but that really, I think, has started to fall off. Bohemian Rhapsody could get in. It's Anthony McCartan. He's was nominated a couple years ago for the Stephen Hawking biopic. Yeah, that's really about it for that category. Unless something like On the Basis of Sex takes off, that's going to be in the original category. That's months down the road. We'll have to see. Okay, then we've got adapted screenplay, a little more crowded, a little more. Black Klansman out front for me, then If Beale Street Could Talk, then First Man, then Widows, and then Can You Ever Forgive Me in 5th. Yeah, so Spike Lee had a hand in. I think was he the sole writer on Black Klansman? Let me just double check that. I know, yeah, he was. Oh no, he had 3 other writers with him. Yeah, so he was a co-writer on that, and maybe he'll win for that. Just somebody get him an Oscar, for Christ's sakes. Preferably in that director category for me, because I've mentioned a few times, but I love the script for Black Klansman is awesome and everything, and the movie itself is great, but the direction in that film, very, very good. I would love to see that happen. I get more, again, historical context, given that it'd be the first black director to win. Yes, I'd be on board for that too, but and not to say that should, I know I just talked about the diversity thing. I know. Hypocritical here, I know, but just that might be one where it's like, well, yeah, of course we'd love to see that happen. Is the work deserving? And I think absolutely yes, it is, just based on that. Let's see. And yeah, Black Klansman right now is leading the odds. And back over an original screenplay, Roma right now is leading the odds, but I think that's based on the Best Picture nomination predictions too. So yeah, we'll see. Let's see. Now, A Star Is Born is pretty high up there in the odds right now too for adapted, but again, I don't think so. Beautiful Boy is another one potentially, but yeah, that would have to really fight, tooth and nail to get in. Black Panther, maybe. Frontrunner, maybe. Jason Reitman is he's been on and off here a few past years of the Oscars. Crazy Rich Asians is one I can actually see getting in, maybe. It is based on a popular book, and sometimes they like to do that, but we'll see. That one would really have to get like a Best Picture, and Michelle Yeoh would have to get in, and a couple other ones maybe here and there. And the last one I mentioned, Mary Queen of Scots, also is it's Beau Willimon, who's really made his bones on House of Cards the last few years. So yeah, he wrote that script. Okay, I think that's yeah, I think that's where we'll leave it for the Oscar stuff here. Yeah, the Globe stuff, there's a lot to get into that too, so I'm going to do a separate video on that, hopefully very, very soon. But for now, that's an updated look at my Oscar predictions.